I am TMH and
We are TMH.
What does Tigrai Media House mean to you?
Tigrai Media House is more than just an ordinary news outlet.
Tigrai Media House is a platform that gives a voice to minority group.
A place where we get news about our people, by our people, in our own language.
But this platform is not exclusive to Tigray or Tigrayans.
They have worked with international media outlets such as CNN, BBC, the Associated Press, The Telegraph, and Sky News.
Make sure all our stories are heard and the struggle of our people are being amplified across the entire world.
It has been successfully vital the last year as our people have suffered a genocide and telecommunications blackout that hindered journalists from being able to report the atrocities taking place in Tigray.
Tigrai Media House has been a lifeline for us. It is one of the only news sources covering the genocide and war crimes being inflicted on Tigray and all across Ethiopia.
We will forever be grateful to them for being the voice of our people and giving hope to all of our families who have been silenced by this conflict.
And in honor of the 3rd year anniversary since the launch of TMH,
We would like to invite you all to join us in Washington, D.C.
For a 3-day commemorative weekend starting January 14th through January 16th.
The event will include global protests,
Panel discussions,
Concert,
a dinner gala,
all in hopes of generating more awareness for the ongoing state-sponsored genocide.
can't wait to see you all day a day.
I am TMH.
I am TMH and
We are TMH.
Hello and welcome to all our viewers tuning in from all our platforms as we come to you live from TMH Studios with me, Deletna Dabalko, presenting you your daily English news. Our headlines for today include Ethiopian drone strikes continue killing 17 civilians this time around on a day of the same day, that Biden and Abiy had their phone call to discuss the ongoing conflict. Secretary General has been deeply saddened by the deadly airstrikes, the recent ones that just took place in northern Ethiopia, as well as UNICEF's expression outrage at recent airstrikes in Tigray's region. Just after the U.S. president and Abiy Ahmed's government had a phone call to discuss the ongoing conflict, news let out that yet another airstrike drone on Monday killed 17 civilians in the country's Tigray region. The latest attack came on the day that the President Joe Biden, during a call with Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, expressed concern about such attacks in the current ongoing war. A report by Zonal administration said women at the floor grinding mill made up most of those killed in the Monday drone strike near Maitz-Ivri. A source who saw the report told the Associated Press. Such drone strikes have been reported almost daily in the Tigray region. A humanitarian worker in the town of Shura told the Associated Press, with an attack over the weekend on displaced persons camp in the region of Dadabit, killing at least 57 people and now wounding more than 130 people, many of them included children. The aid worker also shared photos of partially charred bodies and small corpses laid out on the ground. A spokesman for Ethiopia's government and military didn't respond to questions about Monday's drone strikes. As both Biden expressed concerns in Monday's phone call with Ethiopia's prime minister about detentions and civilian killings in the war against Tigray. The White House also said Biden raised to Abiy that his concerns that these airstrikes continue to cause civilian casualties and suffering in Africa's second most populous nation. The call was requested by Biden after Jeffrey Feltman, the outgoing U.S. Special Envoy, visited Ethiopia last week for the talks with senior leaders in the country. UN Secretary General says he is deeply saddened by the reports that more than 50 civilians have been killed in the most latest recent airstrike in the Tigray region of Ethiopia. The attack that took place at midnight on the 7th of January in a site hosting internally displaced people in a town of Dadabit in Tigray region also injured over 100 and other civilians. Antonio Guterres, in a statement issued yesterday through his spokesperson, reiterated his call for an immediate cessation of hostilities, including airstrikes. He also called on all parties to adhere to their obligations under the international humanitarian law to facilitate humanitarian access and to ensure the protection of civilians, including humanitarian actors, premises, and sites. Earlier last week, another airstrike hit the Mai Ani refugee camp, also in the Tigray region, resulting in the death of 3 Eritrean refugees, in which 2 of them were children. The statement said the Secretary General expressed his deepest condolences to the victims and their families. In related news, the European Union says it's worried about the continued conflict in Ethiopia, including airstrikes on civilians in Tigray region. EU High Representative Josep Borrell, in his statement on the latest development, reiterated his call for immediate and unimpeded humanitarian access to save lives, as no trucks carrying humanitarian assistance has entered Tigray since mid-December last year. Borrell underlined that the only option for a peaceful and long-lasting solution is an independent and comprehensive and inclusive national dialogue, and leaves no one behind in this mediation. The director of the UN's Children's Agency, Henrietta Fore, decries recent airstrikes that killed dozens of people in Ethiopia's Tigray region. A statement released on Sunday by UNICEF Director General Henrietta Fore expressed UNICEF's indignation at the recent airstrikes that struck refugee camps in Tigray, northern Ethiopia. On the 5th and the 7th of January, the attacks reportedly resulted in the deaths of scores of civilians, and including children, injured many more at that. Fore said refugee camps and IDP settlements, including schools hosting displaced children and families, and the essential facilities that provide them with humanitarian civilians and services, are civilian objects, should be completely protected. Failing to respect and protect them from attacks may constitute a violation of international humanitarian law, she said. Fore also said that UNICEF renew its call for an immediate cessation of hostilities. She also urged that all parties to the conflict to build on the initial signs of the progress of the past several weeks, to adhere to the international human rights, humanitarian and refugee law, and to also facilitate humanitarian access to and protect the children from harm anymore. Our last news for today includes the Council on Foreign Relations expresses doubts over the sincerity of Ethiopia's government's desire and call for recent peace. According to Council on Foreign Relations, major issues standing in the way of sustainable peace remain at hand and unresolved despite recent gestures from the opposition side. Timnit Bairu presents the story.
Humanitarian conditions in Tigray are as dire as ever, in large part because of the Ethiopian government continues to impede access to the region. Ongoing aerial attacks on civilian targets are exacerbating the loss and suffering, killing Ethiopians and refugees, and prompting aid organizations to suspend operations because they cannot safely do their work. This weekend, the Tigray Armed Forces claimed that Eritrean forces were continuing to fight in Tigray, a development that would render the restraint of federal forces far less meaningful. Meanwhile, many Ethiopians who were swept up in a wave of dubious arrests targeting human rights activists, journalists, and ethnic Tigrayan Ethiopians whose only crime seemed their ethnicity are still detained. The Biden administration is assessing these developments and trying to capitalize on the positive trends as it transitions from Special Envoy for the Horn of Africa, Jeffrey Feltman, whose registration was announced last week, to his successor, David Satterfield. The article said it would be important to resist the temptation of wishful thinking in this moment and ensure that the desire for a reset of the bilateral relationship does not lead to a selective reading of the latest developments. These are positive signs, but doubts over the sincerity of the government's desire for peace persist, as do real questions about the sustainability of steps towards peace. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's political base may have been unified in its animus towards the Tigray Armed Forces, but without an urgent threat from a common enemy, competing and sometimes contradictory interests will be hard to satisfy. Some of the militant Amhara nationalists that Abiy relied on over the past year already view the latest amnesties as a betrayal. Eritrea will continue to pursue its own agenda. Accountability for atrocities committed remains elusive. U.S. desire for good relations with the government in Addis Ababa are not worth much if the country is tearing itself apart, simmering with grievances that explode into violence, or practicing and exploring the kind of brutal authoritarian governance that characterizes Eritrea. The United States should take care to consider the totality of the picture in Ethiopia today, remembering that it is the ultimate course of that influential country, not rapport with any one leader, that matters most.
That concludes our news for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. Goodbye.
I am TMH, and
We are
TMH.
TMH.
What does Tigrai Media House mean to you?
Tigray Media House is more than just an ordinary news outlet.
Tigrai Media House is a platform that gives a voice to minority group.
A place where we get news about our people, by our people, in our own language.
But this platform is not exclusive to Tigray or Tigrayans.
They have worked with international media outlets such as CNN, BBC, the Associated Press, the Telegraph, and Sky News
To make sure all our stories are heard and the struggle of our people are being amplified across the entire world.
It has been successfully vital the last year as our people have suffered a genocide and telecommunications blackout that hindered journalists from being able to report the atrocities taking place in Tigray.
Tigrai Media House has been a lifeline for us. It is one of the only news source covering the genocide and war crimes being inflicted on Tigray and all across Ethiopia.
We will forever be grateful to them for being the voice of our people and giving hope to all of our families who have been silenced by this conflict.
And in honor of the 3rd year anniversary since the launch of TMH,
we would like to invite you all to join us in Washington, D.C.
for a 3-day commemorative weekend starting January 14th through January 16th.
The event will include global protests,
Panel discussions,
Concert,
a dinner gala,
all in hopes of generating more awareness for the ongoing state-sponsored genocide.
can't wait to see you all a day.
I am TMH.
I am TMH, and
We are TMH.